This is modus ponens. It's a way of forming a logical argument. Sorry about the noise, they're chopping trees outside. And what we have is a rule bit over here that says if event A happens, then event B happens. And then this funny symbol that we can read as and. So if that rule is correct and event A has happened, we know that event B has happened. And it's very simple, but it's quite easy to get it muddled. And the most common way of getting this muddled is by going the wrong direction. So working backwards and arguing that if B has happened, therefore A has happened. If the rule part is, if it's raining, the ground is wet. We look outside, we see the rain, we can conclude that the ground is going to be wet. But if we go outside and find that the ground is wet, we cannot conclude that it has been raining because somebody might have been washing a car, somebody might have spilled a bucket of water. Now, closely related to modus ponens is modus tollens, and this is modus tollens, and we start with exactly the same rule, but this time we say if this rule is correct and not B, therefore not A. So this time what we're saying is if the ground is not wet, we can conclude safely that it has not been raining. And again, it's possible and quite easy to muddle this. And this time we would muddle it by saying it's not raining, therefore it's not wet. And we know that that's not correct because somebody might have been washing their car. Now you can use logical rules like this to solve logical tasks, such as this one. Now the person who invented this task, it's very well known, was surprised by how few people could actually solve it. And I think that's a bit unfair because when you're trying to apply rules like this in a real life context, the rules don't usually come out as neatly as this. There's usually a lot more going on. And it's often complicated by multiple events happening at the same time and events happening and then not happening. So the sun comes out and the ground dries up before you go out and see whether or not it had been wet. All of that sort of thing. And the other thing is that if we took a psychologist and sent them up onto the roof to fix a tile, would we really be surprised if we still had a leaky roof? And I don't think we would, because we recognise that the psychologist hasn't had training in roofing, and the psychologist should realise that not everybody has had training in modus ponens and modus tollens. Now, with this task, our rule is we know that on each card there's a number on one side and a symbol on the other, and the rule that we are trying to evaluate is when there's an even number on one side, there is a sun symbol on the other side. And we're trying to test to see whether or not that is true. And the question is, which cards do we have to turn over to figure this out? Which cards do we have to turn over to evaluate that rule, to test that rule? And we can use our logical statements to do this. We start with this card here. There's a 5 on one side. Now the rule doesn't mention odd numbers, so we can discount that one. We don't need to turn that one over. The rule does mention even numbers, so we do need to turn this one over, and we need to check, according to modus ponens, that when we turn this card over, event A is there being an even number, event B is there being a sun symbol, so we need to check that we get a sun symbol on the other side. Now the next one, this is where most people get muddled, and the rule does not say if there's a sun symbol, therefore there must be an even number. So we don't actually have to turn that one over. That one is the logical fallacy that people get muddled with modus ponens. So we don't have to turn that card over. The last card has a star symbol on it. Now, do we have to turn that one over? Yes, we do. And the reason we do is because we can evaluate that with modus tollens. So here we have modus tollens, and we've got event A is there being an even number, event B is there being a sun symbol, We don't have a sun symbol on that card. We've got a star symbol. Therefore, we should not have an even number on the other side of that card. So we have to turn over that card, because if there is an even number on that, then we will have disproven the rule. So the two cards that we have to turn over to test our rule are the one with the 4 on it and the one with the star on it. And there it is. Modus tollens and modus ponens.